Greetings all, Frog here. It is time for Crusader Kings 2. However, because it is late at night on a Thursday, happened to be the Thursday that the new patch came out, I did not remember to stop the patch from automatically applying, which means I need to right-click CK2 in Steam, choose Properties, click Betas tab, select 2.5.2 in the drop-down list, and let it update. I don't have time to let it update. So, what I'm going to do is kind of take a little bit of a cop-out, because I have enough time to record an episode, just not both. So, let's talk about the patch notes. This is huge. It's the Reaper's Due. It's a big deal. It's the biggest expansion since Conclave, and it does some interesting things, I think. So, first off, important information. Older save games should work with 2.6, but if you want to be really safe, you should finish it off, which is what I'm going to do, because I want to be really safe, because I'm loving this Lothian campaign, and I don't want to lose it. But what we can do is let's talk about the dev notes. So, I mean, there's this many notes. We're not going to go through each one individually, right? That's a lot of notes. This is what I'm saying. This is huge. This is way bigger than Conclave. Like, Conclave did quite a bit. This does even more. So, the Reaper's Due is the name of the paid content, but there is a free patch that you can automatically receive, and that's what happened to me. I haven't bought the Reaper's Due yet. I probably will. The Reaper's Due looks interesting to me. I'm kind of growing on Conclave the more I see other people playing with it, but I don't know. There's still some stuff in Conclave I'm not sure about, but regardless, let's take a look at this. So first off, what do you get for free? Well, they've added game rules, which are huge. Now, this is horrible formatting, mostly because of the forum. All of these are the game options. These are all things that you can change when you start a new game. This is unbelievable. This is so much more precision control than you used to get with CK2. So, what have they added? Well, Major Epidemic. If you have the Reaper's Due, then you can change the Major Epidemics to be dynamic, so they are essentially procedurally generated. I don't know if it's a full procedural generation, but they're generated dynamically. Delayed dynamic, so it brings them later, so there's less death early. Historical, meaning that the Great Plagues will happen when the Great Plagues happened. And then deadly, which is, I assume, just going to kill everybody as quickly as possible. I'm drinking Werner's today. The gender equality, default historical all, that's kind of cool. So default is the fact that you can you can choose to change your gender equality, the agnatic versus cognatic. Historical means that the certain empires would have cognatic or not, they would have it, and then all lets you mean that there's always gender equality. The Mongol invasion, of course, you can have the historical invasion, which happens, what is it, around 1200 or 1300 in the game? I don't know, because I was the Horde the last time I played during the Mongol invasion, so it didn't really matter. Or you can turn it off. The Aztec Invasion, which is the Sunset Invasion application, you can turn it 14th century random or off, which is awesome. The 14th century is the default. Random means it could happen at literally any time, and then off is what most people play with because the Sunset Invasion is stupid. So, so there you go. Shattered Retreat, you can turn it on and off. So it's the Shattered Retreat is off. It's the old CK2 mechanic. On is the EU4 mechanic. I don't know how I'd play with that. I think Shattered Retreat has been interesting in our Lothian campaign, so I may keep that on. Defensive packs I think are cool. That would probably be on in my game. Dynamic de jure drift. The default pretty much means everything drifts within 100 years. I don't know what restricted means, and then off would obviously be off. Nothing shifts de jure. De jure assimilation duration is the same sort of thing. This just is how long. So 100 is the default, I think. So long would be 100, longer than 100. Short maybe is 50. Very short is 25 years. Supernatural events on and off. Cultural conversion, default restricted faster multipod, slower conversion combination. That just seems to be pretty straightforward. So default is default. Again, I don't know how they're restricting it. Then you have faster, you have slower, and then some combination thereof. Religious conversion speed, default or slower. I guess some people thought religious conversion was too fast. I disagree. I think it was actually probably a little too slow, but again, that's just a personal thing, so I would always set it to default. Rating, of course, historical means only the Norse can do it. Look at this beautiful thing. We could raid as a Catholic if we turned unrestricted raiding on. It's tempting. But that also means all the other AIs could as well. So, you know. Adventurers, normal, rare, none. I'd be tempted to set it to none, but probably I would bring it down to rare, because adventurers I don't think are very fun for me. Usually you can either destroy them or they'll screw you, and those two options I don't like. If it were like a moderate challenge, that might be a different thing, but they're not, so... Oh well. Interfaith marriages, restricted or open. Matrilineal marriages on and off. We would always leave that on. We'd always leave the interfaith marriages, I think, restricted just because it's more historically accurate. Custom nations, if you have Charlemagne. Story events, if you have Charlemagne. Excuse me. Vassal republics, you could have restricted or unrestricted. Vassal theocracies. I would unrestrict vassal republics right now because I want more than one realm in a vassal republic, but that's okay. Invitations to court, default or open. Diplomatic range on, restricted or off. I don't know what this is. I don't think we have a diplomatic range right now, but I'm not sure if that's true because I've just never noticed. Regencies, on or off. That's pretty straightforward. Provincial revolts, defensive attrition, pagan reformation. Players only would be interesting if you didn't want them to reform, but I think it'd be cool to let the AI do it. Assassination, plots only, or direct action. This is how it turns it back. So, gosh, how long ago was it? Like around 2.2, maybe 2.3. I'm not sure. They changed assassination. It used to be something you could click on, like you just right-click the portrait and kill them. And then they said, nope, you have to go through a plot. And the assassinations gave you a certain percentage worth a certain amount of money. And so you could just pay, if you had the money, to just try and keep killing them. Plot required other people to help you join in. So I don't know how I feel about that. I wish you could do both. It's possible that if you have direct action, both are turned on. And that's why it says plots only. I don't know. The AI could do seduction and intrigue, which is kind of interesting. You have the way of life expansion. And then provincial revolt, they've already said. Sloppy. Okay, so the old succession screen has been replaced with one that's more elaborate. That's a visual thing. Graphics and layouts have been improved, so they say. Flavorful text will tell you more of the deceased character and what they'll be remembered by. A picture representing the character's death has been added, and you'll now hear your own death sound when dying, which you didn't before. You just heard the beam, be-doo, beam, beam, beam. Added events through which one can get female counselors. The women can either be talented relatives, vassals, or strangers. So that, I assume, you would have to have the conclave. Oh no, counselors are not the cat. Maybe that is. All right. Anyway, that might be your normal, your chancellor and your steward and all that. Added release tributary decision, which is silly. Why would you ever want to do that? Decision to recruit prisoners. That's actually really cool. If that's really cool. Ask characters to leave the court. That doesn't seem like you would want to do that. You do merchant republics to claim the vice castle or cast. Interesting. At a confirmation event where you expel a holy order to avoid expelling them by mistake. Oh, good. So that's a confirmation. So if you do go to expel a holy order, they say, "Are you sure?" The continue button is to the launcher, which is already there. But actually, what that might mean is maybe they're bringing it to the front screen like they did in EU4, which would be great because the continue button is already in the load saves game. Which is cool. Loads of new nicknames. All right. Autosave intervals every 10, 25, 50, and 100 years. Interesting. Risky, but interesting. Iron Man saving times. Good. I don't care if the file size is bigger. 29 seconds to less than 6. I'll take it. You could quintuple the save file size. Who cares? That's what terabytes are for. There's now an event informing the world when a crusade you had inconclusively. Really? I didn't realize that could happen. And 2, I thought there was always an event. So, interesting to know. Now with the female vassals, they can have council seats, of course. Add an event to rename Middle Francia to Austrasia if no longer held back Carling. Oh. Cool. If you have the way of life, it added a bunch of new events for the war focus, which actually is probably good because the war focus was not that interesting. But now apparently you can get leader traits and teach them to your commanders. That's pretty awesome. Theology focus, again, it was another one of those things where it wasn't really that interesting. Finally focus can remove rivalries. Oh, I kind of want to play Lothian now with this patch and hope it works because I would love to get rid of the rivalry between us and Prince James. If you have the old gods, which of course we do, they have stronger versions of the Viking, Ravager, and Sea King trait. Oh no, of the Viking trait, these are the two stronger versions if you keep raiding. That might be what we play next, actually. We haven't played a Viking King, so maybe we'll do that. Add a targeted decision, appoint Shield Maiden for Norse pagan rulers to grant eligible female characters Shield Maidens. Cool. Shield Maiden training events, sure. Combat events where Shield Maiden can save your liege, of course. More Shield Maidens. 2 decisions for defensive pagans to worship ancestors. Okay, that's cool. So balance things. Alliances and call to arms. The manual Call to Arms is back, which is good because I did not like how it was automatic and it's just everybody was called period every time, and that forced us to always be called, and that sucked. Call to Arms from allies can be declined again. That's the same thing. Okay, that's good. To define and enable automatic, you added opinion penalties to alliance breakers, which is good. Temporary alliance break modifiers, -5 diplomacy. Wow. I mean, that's probably fair. That's good. AI considers dissolving alliance with alliance breakers. That makes sense. And they're unlikely to accept alliances from alliance breakers. Very good. Vassals couldn't join war against tyrants, apparently. Interesting. That prevented vassals from joining wars against it. So revocation wars may be more risky. Okay. Can no longer call an ally to war if an ally has a non-aggression pact with defenders. That seems pretty fair. And like in EU4, there's a dual alliance system where if you accept a call to arms from a defender, you break the alliance with the attacker. If you had both, I'm hoping it doesn't actually give you the alliance breaker modifier because there's not a lot you could do about that. The AI no longer calls all allies into war, but tries to get more than 1.5 times the opponent's strength. Okay. Flanders is now part of France. Brabant is part of Lotharingia. All those cultures no longer split if controlled by a powerful ruler. Okay, makes sense. Crowded threshold modifier lowered to 25. What is a crowded threshold? I don't know what that is. Interesting things. Okay, that's more death things. Active minor titles cannot be held by incapable characters. Probably makes sense. Alania is tribal. Hungary no longer requires Magyar. The troop count of Shia Uprising. Okay. AI holders of France would no longer create Aquitaine unless they're close to forming Francia. Berber allows looting and seafarer. Okay, that's very cool. Level 4 Hill Fort Market to upgrade tribal holdings as non-tribals. That makes sense. AI now makes use of tribal armies. That's actually really cool. Increase the impact and deadliness of most epidemic traits. Of course it did. That's the whole point of this. Funeral possession event, of course. Extort subjects. Ooh, interesting. Donate to liege, now available while the liege is at war. Groom and heir ambition no longer requires you to be married. That's fair. Updated final ambitious positive event to be slightly more interesting. When declining the papal request to switch to papal investiture, the Pope may now excommunicate you. Ooh, that's interesting because we've done that twice now. Rank 2 and 3 education outcomes are now more common. That's good. Become king not only lets chancellors fabricate one kingdom claim. Oh, darn. Changed age to set childhood focus to 6, so you can also choose an educator at the same time. Okay. Which we don't have because we don't have the conclave. It's now possible to demand religious conversion of landless courtiers. Even while at war, okay. Boosts the opinion effects of giving gifts and other improved relation counselor job. Even with the law that allows revocation and retract from religious enemies, the religious brethren among your vassals will now still be upset. You no longer get pagan homeland attrition if you're allies. Well, that's a good move. Made agnatic the normal default gender succession law, again, except in Christian realms or when you have equality laws or the new game rule. Blocked barons from having agnatic cognatic. Okay, that does make sense because all sorts of things could happen and barons just really don't matter anyway. Rulers of all religions are now allowed to convert to the attacker's religion during holy wars. Very good. Exiled characters should no longer join courts of characters in seclusion. That makes sense. Characters can no longer escape from house arrest. Most of the minor titles can be made available for females. Okay. Frail has a small health penalty, which makes sense. When Tyranny War is lost, the title revocation law will be revoked. That's a conclave thing, so we have never seen that. Unique counselor events are slightly better. Oh, that's the one that's like, hey, look, there's this dude, and then you ignore him. Raised chance of reincarnation events for Indian religion group. Interesting. Excuse me. Change the Jewish counselor events so they're slightly better and show up in the event options so you can click them and check their stats. Huh. Lowered the war contribution that all theocracies and holy orders get as attackers in the Great Holy Wars. Powerful vassals will now only be angry that they haven't been given a position on the council if they're eligible for a position, or if they've recently been fired. Okay, that's another conclave thing. Tanistry is available without late feudal. That's fine. Fixed firing advisors, applying the revoked honorary title option modifier on top of fired from council. Wow, it had a double bounce. Rough. Merchant republics can always move their capital to a city if their current capital is a castle. That makes sense. Reintroduce backroomcy. Yes, counselors who have promised council support to someone will now vote their conscience if the person they're supporting is abstaining. Huh. Commanders can now be relieved. Can now only be relieved via the relieve commander interaction in the minor title screen. Okay. It does not incur an opinion penalty. Retreating enemy army is no longer considered hostile for the purpose of disbanding. Adjusted the opinion unfaithful. Okay, and just another modifier. Double the positive opinion modifiers granted landing home to wow. Let me look at all of these we have to go. We're not going to go through all these, I don't think. We're going to have to start zipping through, I think. Let's get back to where we were. Okay, yep, we're in here. Leaders can now become Vikings. That's cool. Switching religious branches is Indian now switches out of your close kin, which makes sense. Dynamic mercenaries are no longer prevented from marrying. Even malcontent voters will now vote for additional council power laws. Prisoners for major results. Okay, blah, blah, blah. That's actually kind of cool. So the Varangian Guard is more likely to happen because it's a pulse event rather than a mean time to happen. Okay, I don't know what event SOA.5219 is, but it's now a yearly pulse. Increased prestige gain from Grim to Perfection, that's good. Wicked Priest events to bi-yearly pulse, so a lot of things apparently are moving away from mean time to happen. I don't know how I feel about that as a general rule. Retreating from battles and sieges now starts the day after you right-click. Okay, so if you make a mistake, that's good. Tribals who are Tengri Altaic will now raise more light cav and less heavy. Alright. Actually, going back to that retreating from battles and sieges, that's sort of important because now it's going to take you an extra day to retreat. So it's kind of important to remember that. Crown laws can be changed every 50 years rather than once a lifetime. But if somebody dies quicker than 50 years, then there you go. William is being given a little bump so he can win Stamford Bridge. The opinion of the predecessor is now also inherited in elective government if the successor is a close relative. Crusades on titles without a crusade weight are now less likely if said title is not adjacent to the territory. Okay. Now possible to ask one's liege to press one's claim, even if the liege council isn't allowed to vote on wars. Courtiers who have minor titles, friends, lovers, consorts, or rivals are now excluded from the court pruning system. Immortal characters are now immune to pruning. If subjugation wars are invalidated, the once per lifetime is now refunded. Oh, that's excellent. If a Muslim invasion is invalidated, the piety will be refunded, and loyalist counselors will now vote against law proposals started by someone other than their liege. Okay, so now if we have these expansions, which we do, there's a bunch of Horse Lord things. So if you conquer a nomadic land as a non-nomad, a basic tribal holding will be constructed, the nomad culture and religion will be preserved, a nomad agitation modifier will be added, increasing provincial revolt risk, which doesn't mean anything in Crusader Kings 2. On succession, if a character holds provinces with nomad agitation, they will automatically secede from the realm unless a castle or city has been constructed. At least 2 buildings have been constructed in the province's tribal holding. Provinces that secede because of nomadic agitation will spawn a new nomad ruler. Okay, if a newly seceded nomad ruler borders a nomad of the same culture, they'll join as a clan chief, and the modifier will be removed if nomads take it back over. Raiding adventurers can properly invade and claim lands from the nomads. If they're the same culture, they'll become a nomadic clan chief. If they aren't, they'll become a tribal vassal. When you choose to settle as tribal, your clan chiefs will settle along with you. That's actually pretty big. It makes it settle is more likely to be useful, I think. Pillage holding decision has been remade. Now pillage is selected holding progressively until it's destroyed. Oh, good. So you don't have to keep remembering to click it. Oh, so good. When a holding is destroyed from pillaging, you get an event containing some flavor, so you know when that whole process is over. And you can pillage several holdings at once. Very good. You choose to stop doing so by using a decision, and it's now capped at 30% revolt risk. But again, revolts don't matter. Oh, apparently they will matter. You can no longer choose to pillage enemy holdings manually. Okay. Interesting. I don't know if I like that. So it's been remade. It allows progressive, but it is only triggered by event. When choosing to settle as a nomad, the provinces that flip to your culture will now try to border each other, which makes sense. The AI logic for when nomads want to settle has been changed slightly. Certain personalities will take longer. If settling nomad is only one vassal of king tier, they will now usurp the kingdom's title. Rather than create a custom empire, AI nomads will now tribalize if they push too far outside the steppe, if they don't hold much territory in the steppe. When they tribalize, they now get, okay, blah, 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 blah. There's a more new branch to the Silk Road. Way of life intrigue focused by on nerf the chance of abduction and murder. Added 1 health to theology. Okay, again, making theology more useful. carousing, move to theology, seduction, focus. Good. These are all the AI improvements right in there. So hopefully that's good. Man, I don't know. Interface changes. We'll get to see all of those when we finally do it. These are all of those changes there. You can go through. These are all the modding changes, which we don't care about because we don't actually mod. What's this? This is database changes, so names. These are all the bug fixes that they've done. Lots of bug fixes. We just went through the features. So, I mean, that is the new patch in a nutshell. If you want to grab this, go to the Paradox forums. And we're still going. Still going. There they are. Go to the Paradox forums. Check it out. The topic is Crusader Kings 2 2.6.1. The Reapers do patch. Not for problem reports, of course, and then the checksum will be UUYR. So the next episode will be back to the Lothian campaign, where we actually will have our guys, because I'll have set the 252 to restart overnight, and I'll have plenty of time to record. But unfortunately, right now we're out of time. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, click the like button. Consider subscribing to the channel to stay updated. Everything as it happens. And until next time, cheers.